On today's show, I'm going to tell you why the Clippers' best option is to run it back. Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, been a Clipper fan for 20 years, been covering the team for 5 years on my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, and 3 years right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Head on over to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Of course, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Get us up to 8,000 subscribers. And of course, you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. For today's episode, I'm going to be talking about why the LA Clippers' best bet is to run it back. And that is because of a full potential season of Kawhi going into this offseason healthy. And then maybe some new players we get. And then the truth that they have no choice. But let's get into it, right? People, I've been reading the comments, haven't been responding. I don't even know if I'm ever going to do that again, to be honest with you. Not enough hours in the day given everything that's gone through me this year. So unfortunately, if you want to talk to me, go to Twitter, Instagram, or something. Especially the Locked On comments. No offense. I lose brain cells reading them sometimes. And the other Locked On hosts don't do it. So unfortunately, before my house burned down, I could read your comments and respond to the nonsense. But I honestly don't feel like talking to a bunch of stans anyway. The most of the Clipper Nation listens on audio, to be honest with you. But let me just say this. Kawhi Leonard, as far as why the Clippers should run it back, everybody knows, people are going to call me out before I even get into it. People are going to call me out and say, why are you doing this? We know that you don't want it to run it back. It's not necessarily true. I think the Clippers have no choice. I honestly don't care. It's about the name on the front for me. I would be supportive of any product, and a new change would be good. But however, a new change means we're going to be terrible because we don't have assets, and I don't know how much we'd get for Kawhi Leonard. And there's no blowing it up without getting rid of Kawhi, and Clippers blowing it up without assets. That isn't very logical. So the realistic nature of the discussion comes from, do you think the Clippers are a championship team with just a couple of role-playing additions and some fine-tuning around the margins? Or do you think they're significantly behind, the championship curve or whatever it may be? I think how Denver does in the playoffs will offer some clarity in terms of that point. Right now, they're 2-2 with the Thunder. So if they end up winning that series and end up going to the finals, then we can say we lost in a game 7 to a finals team. Maybe we're not that far off. Now, the reason why the Clippers should have some sort of optimism going into next season is this. 150 games without Kawhi Leonard for 45 of those. This is the first time since 2020, 2021 that Kawhi Leonard is entering an offseason healthy. And the last time he did that, we know the rest. We went to the Western Conference Finals and Kawhi Leonard had an all-NBA season. So I'm not necessarily saying that's going to happen again, but it's never a bad thing for Kawhi Leonard to go into the offseason healthy. And with Kawhi Leonard, I'm not going to have the same tone I did before this series where it's like, if we got Kawhi, we got a chance to win a chip. Doesn't matter about anything else. It does matter about everything else, but you need Kawhi Leonard to be great. The question is, there's a lot of people that disagree with my assessment of Kawhi in this Nuggets series. I keep saying that while he was the best player for us, I still probably, if I had to blame an individual the most, would blame him just because he still, to me, was not good enough. And I figured James Harden might not be good enough. But if you look at it with James Harden, he had 4 good games and 3 not-so-great games. I think if you break it down with Kawhi, it's game 1, he was not good enough at all. 7 turnovers, terrible turnover when we had the lead and we're about to win the game against Jamal Murray on the sideline where he just lost the ball. And then game 2, he was literally insane, amazing. That was the only game to me where he really imposed his will, although game 6, I thought he was great as well. And then game 3, he was good, very solid, good enough for us to win. That's all that matters to me. And then game 4 didn't show up to the fourth quarter really, had some foul trouble. And then game 5, not aggressive enough. And game 7, not aggressive enough. And again, people just keep saying he was double teamed and he was triple teamed. If you go watch Kawhi in his highlights with the 2021 playoff run for the Clips and 2019, look at where he's starting his moves. Look at where he's catching the ball and how much quicker he's working. I mean, it's not rocket science. I can break down the X's and O's, but this is a podcast format, so I can't do all that. But fact of the matter is, we're going to need a better version of Kawhi to win a championship, supporting cast or not. Now, everyone is going to say, well, he averaged 25, 8, and 5 on 54, 40 and a half, 78 splits. What more do you want him to do? Maybe worse efficiency, more shots. Yes, I'm saying force it a little bit more. 18 shots per game, that's not really good enough for me in a series, especially when you're shooting that efficiently. I would rather win the game and you shoot worse than you lose the game and you shoot great. You're going to have to take some tougher shots. You're going to have to force some things. But again, how much can his body really handle, or how much could his body handle this season? You know, he still looked pretty good going into the playoffs. He looked great. 25 points a game in the month of March. But I mean, I don't know. By the way, I'm a little under the weather, so sorry if I sound a little nasally more than usual. But you just hope that with a full season of Kawhi Leonard, you can get a better record. And I think we definitely could achieve that, especially with some minor moves as well. But like next year's playoffs, per se, we're going to need, I think, more points out of Kawhi. Maybe worse shooting from the field. That's okay. We just need more points. We're going to need some better free throw shooting than 78%, I can tell you that. And maybe a little bit more of Kawhi's on-ball defense. Now, the question is, with him being a year older, is that going to be possible? You never know. That's all I can say is you never know. A full offseason to, not have to rehab from anything, just recover, still put in the work. He could come out next season guns blazing, like he was in 2023-24. The question is, we want to make sure we still get him to the playoffs. The advantage of this season was that he didn't have that wear and tear from the first half of the season. And assuming that he's healthy, ready to go from game one next season, he might have that. So I think our best bet is to hopefully, and in 2021 and 2019, I guess it was like this, where you just are a little cautious with him. Just try to get into the playoffs healthy. You're going to get an all-NBA player most nights, no serious injury. And then in the playoffs, you roll the dice. But we got to make sure that we get a better team around him. So coming up, going to be talking about the ways that we could potentially strengthen the team around Kawhi. But overall, the reason why blowing it up and trading Kawhi for what you're probably not going to get much is not better than, especially with no assets, is not better than running it back with Kawhi, who still was 25, 8, and 5 in the playoffs on amazing efficiency. Give him some better pieces, roll the dice again. Let's see what we can do. That's the most logical thing to do. Now, I know what people might be saying is like, well, we've reached our peak with Kawhi, man. How do you know he's not going to get injured again next season? I don't. That's the risk of having him. We have him on contract for 2 more years. That's all I can say is hopefully he's healthy next season again. Because, yes, those are valid concerns that we can't get anywhere with Kawhi anymore as the number one option. That's really the nature of the discussion is. But here's the thing. Even if you think we can't get to the top of the mountain with Kawhi Leonard as the number one anymore for whatever reason, what real choice do we have? And is being terrible with no future better than being good? Probably not, especially not for business. So coming up, going to be talking about the new additions that we could get to make Kawhi's life easier. I got to tell you a little something about Hungry Root. Everyone in my house always has something going on. I call this busy season. I don't have a lot of time to go grocery shopping or to cook healthy meals at home. That's why I use Hungry Root. Hungry Root is like having your own personal shopper and nutritionist wrapped into one. They take care of grocery shopping and meal planning, offering personalized recommendations based on your tastes and health goals. With their high-quality, nutritious food, you can stick to your gut-friendly, high-protein diet without spending hours planning. Take advantage of the exclusive deal. Get 40% off your first box plus a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA, code LockedOnNBA for 40% off and a lifetime free item. I got to tell you a little something about Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, so it's back talking about why the Clippers' only logical option is to run it back. Kawhi Leonard going into the offseason healthy for the first time since 2020, 2021 is a good thing. It is a very good thing. And hopefully we can keep him healthy again next year. Definitely going to come with some load management, but hopefully we will have an even better record given that we had 50 wins without Kawhi for 45 games. And then one thing I'll say is this. What if we get a top 3 seed next year? That would change my tune completely. Because what we have right now is the 2 teams in the Eastern Conference that are up 3-1. One is a 3 seed, one is a 4 seed. So by my rule, the Indiana Pacers will not win the championship this year. I honestly don't believe they will. In the West, you got the Nuggets who are the 4 seed and the Thunder who are the 1, and then you got the Timberwolves who are 6. And the Warriors, I don't see them coming back. So my theory will be tested very largely this year. Unless OKC or New York win the championship, there will be a non-3 seed joining the crew. We'll see how it goes. It's super wide open right now, especially with the injuries that are going on. But yeah, here's the thing. If there's a non-3 seed that wins, that would change my tune, but I want to see how that team does it. Because, for example, Minnesota, they ended up getting home court advantage in the second round because of another upset. So that's something to consider. You know what I mean? That usually I always say it's hard to win all those series on the road, but if you have an upset, that changes the ball game a little bit because now you have home court advantage and didn't have to play 4 series on the road. But the fact of the matter is for Minnesota is they're going to have to play, let's say they go all the way, 2 more series on the road. But part of what makes me think they might be able to do it is because their superstar player is really young and has the legs to do it. But last year in the conference finals, he got gassed at the end of the game. So we're going to have to see. It's going to be a lot. We will see. But anyway, if we do finish with a top 3 seed, that would make me confident. Because how many seasons since I've done this podcast have we had a top 3 seed? 0. If we have one, that would mean that we've been one of the top 3 teams in the West all year, and that would make me feel pretty good about maybe we can do something special. And I think we have a chance to do that if we keep this same team around of potentially getting a top 3 seed. Now, will it just, here's the thing. It all just comes down to Kawhi and his health every single year. Like, that's what this comes down to, is that if you want to do another year of that, that's the reality. Is we're going to have to be asking that question. Is Kawhi healthy? Is he going to be good to go? Because our ceiling is really determined by that. In terms of the floor, I mean, James Harden has a player option. I'm assuming he's going to want a new contract. So if James Harden wants a new deal, I'm hoping that we can make it a 2-year deal so his contract ends up aligning with Kawhi's. But James, if you're on the pro Kawhi side and you want to say, let's get rid of James. You want a different point guard, someone that's less ball dominant. I don't think Kawhi I don't want to do a divide, but I've seen a lot of the people that are like more honestly on like the Kawhi stan side be anti-Harden, like there's 2 factions kind of going at it in terms of like who deserves more blame. I really don't care. I'm a Clipper fan. But I expected Harden to, not be great at times, whereas Kawhi I hold to a higher standard, hence why he gets paid more. But James Harden, the only reason Kawhi Leonard's even able to suit up in the playoffs and finally play in front of a sold-out Clipper playoff crowd for the first time is because of James Harden, is because James Harden carried this team all season long, got us there. Kawhi is such a great player, but the one thing about him, especially in this Clippers tenure, is he's not been reliable availability-wise in the regular season or the playoffs. James Harden is an Iron Man type star, And in the regular season, he goes out there and he produces. And he did that for us this past season. So you can't really be saying, if you're a Kawhi guy and you're like, we still can win it with Kawhi, but we need another second option. I mean, there's no one better to lead a team in the nights that Kawhi doesn't play than a guy like James Harden, a one-man offense like that, truly. Now, you got Zoo. He's been amazing. I'll talk about him more in the next segment, but new blood is what's important. For Kawhi Leonard's job to be easier, we want to probably finally address that we need to get a 4. Aaron Gordon has been insane in these playoffs. He kind of exposed that. We need someone that's a little bit more physical, a little bigger, and let Kawhi maybe guard the weakest shooter like on the team sometimes, then occasionally switch on to the good perimeter players and stuff like that. But we want to see Kawhi Leonard at the 3. That would give us more size in the lineup. That would put him at his more natural position. When he won the championship with Toronto, he had Siakam and Marc Gasol next to him. So that's the most logical step. Let's get a new forward, put him next to Kawhi. Maybe you need to trade someone decent like a Norm to do it. And then we start Derek Jones, James Harden, Kawhi, this new guy, whoever it may be. Or maybe he's worse than Nico Batum. We start Nico, lean into him all season long. Maybe it's his last season. And then we have this 4 come off the bench. We definitely need to get another 4 and have Kawhi Leonard not play it as much. And then Zoo. That team would be pretty good. And I think the key is to have Norm coming off the bench. If you have Norm coming off the bench, it's a lot more like what we saw in the 2023-24 season. And our team, regular season-wise, felt closer to a title team in the regular season. I just liked the way we were defense first this season and less deferring and more clear-cut rules. But then in the playoffs, it got kind of murky with the fact that, hey, Norman Powell's been a 22-point-per-game guy all season long, but he and Kawhi never really found that synergy in terms of what our offense is when they're all playing together and stuff like that. So that's why it was hard to do this whole Kawhi play only half the season thing, because we had a team in the first half of the season that was doing their thing, and it became hard for Norman Powell to adjust a little bit. And I think his rhythm at times was a little thrown off in the playoffs. He shot 47% from the field, which wasn't bad, but he only shot 35% from 3, averaged 16 points, which, I mean, it's not too bad at all. 4th leading scorer, but comparing that to what Norm was for us all season long, it just... The thing is, on a championship team, Norman Powell is closer to a 6-man role. He's not a good enough ball handler, decision maker, defender, or rebounder to justify, and he can't create his own shot well enough to justify his looks offensively over a, say, Kawhi Leonard. So, yes, I would have rather had someone like Norman Powell maybe take 9 shots per game and then Kawhi take 20. But that's the step. If Norm is still on this team, 6-man. If we need to trade him for a power forward, that has to happen. So what I'm saying is, depending on how this series goes between Denver and OKC, we may not be as far off as I think. That might be a whole other podcast in itself of how far we are off from a title, but we're not far from being very good because we were good this year and we can make the team a little bit better. We just got to hope that we get another good run of health, because that's the sad part is, as a Clipper fan, when do we really get good runs of health? And this postseason, we kind of got one and we didn't produce. So we got to hope that next year we get another good run of health. And what happens if James Harden gets injured for 20 games during the season? Will be able to survive that? So these all matter, and there's risk with running it back, but we don't really have any better options. And coming up, going to talk about that and why Ivica Zubac takes it to the next level. But a couple of new additions, we could be pretty Gucci next season. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, things are really heating up with FanDuel because the NBA playoffs are in full swing and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, but we're about to be on the conference finals, and FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. If you've got a read on who's heating up, why not back it up with the same game parlay? And I'll tell you right now, the New York Knicks have the second highest odds to go to the finals and win it. So is this the year of the Knicks? Go to FanDuel and bet there. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so the LA Clippers probably going to run it back. And one thing that's going to be something to watch is the continued progression of one Ivica Zubac. This guy had an amazing season. He continues to get better every single year. He has increased his points per game in each of the last 6 seasons with the Clippers. His first year, 8 points a game. His first full year, I should say, 8.3 points per game. Second year, 9 points a game. Third year, 10.3. Fourth year, 10.8. Last season, 11.7. This season, breakout season, 16.8. 17 and 13 this guy averaged on 63% shooting. Now, his free throw shooting was almost a career low, second worst of his career behind his rookie year. So that's something that he's probably going to have to put in some work in the summer, and I don't doubt that he will. But the continued progression of Zoo, I mean, can we get that up to 19 and 13 next year? I mean, he played 80 games. What a year for the guy. I think he can continue to get better and progress. He's 28 years old. He's right in the beginning of his prime. I think this season will give him a lot of confidence, and we're going to go into next season probably giving him those same kind of looks that we did in the second half of the season. Because in December, for example, he only averaged 14 points a game. Compare that to March, he averaged 20 points a game. So we made it an effort. He went from 11 shots a game in November, December to averaging 14 in March and 13 in April. So we made it more of an effort, and we covered that all season long right here on Locked On Clippers as we kept on giving Zoo the ball, and he started to score more and started to show he was getting double-teamed. He was getting better at making reads out of the double team. We saw so much maturation from Zoo this season, whether it be another great defensive season, but mainly his scoring arsenal, his ability to have a left hand consistently, which he introduced last season, but now we're throwing him the ball more. You're seeing that more. He caught the ball closer to the basket. He had the best entry passer that he's played with in Harden. And his touch has just improved every year. And with James Harden giving him more bunnies than he's ever gotten, that mixed with the increased aggression, the increased trust in our coaching staff going to him, he had an amazing season. And I think we can completely build off of that by looking at him as a go-to guy early on in the season. And dare I say, maybe making him the second offensive option scoring-wise after Kawhi, making Harden more of a third guy. I mean, in the pick and roll, though, you're going to take what the defense gives you if you're Harden, but still. See, the thing is this is the dilemma with having Harden on your team. In the regular season, his pick and roll stuff is so good. But in the playoffs, teams can kind of pick what they want the look to be when you get the ball to him and pick and roll. I think with Zubac getting the ball in the low post, even if you send a double, sometimes he can still turn over because he's 7 feet tall, and that's what having a great post player can be. But it's also a different sort of rotation to make. You know, you're coming from the top to the bottom. If you double a post guy from the opposite block, a lot of times if you have a cutter or someone right there, you can just dish it right by the basket. But you're often going to have a double coming from the top. They force you to rotate the ball. But I prefer that sometimes than the team knowing, hey, look, we're going to blitz Harden. We're going to make Derrick Jones Jr. beat us from three. Now, they could do the same thing with Zoo in the post and say we're going to leave Derrick Jones Jr. open. But if Derrick Jones Jr. is cutting, then look out. I mean, so it's a different look. The thing is, the reason why I say it's a dilemma is Harden pick and roll is going to give you such good stuff in the regular season that you're probably hurting your regular season offense, but it would have to be like building habits for the playoffs. Because the problem with Harden teams to me is you become reliant on him, and if he's not necessarily doing his thing in pick and roll, his teams often end up flaming out. I don't want to be that reliant on him because in the playoffs, I don't know. Now, the obvious answer is, well, if you just got better shooters, it wouldn't matter because he was still creating good looks. Yeah, here's the problem with that. With Harden, you don't just need better shooters. You need defenders and shooters. And it's not like OG Anunoby is going to be free for us to just snag or something like that, or Derek White. So this is the reality, is we're going to probably have some great guys like Derrick Jones Jr., Chris Dunn. They're not the best offensive guys, which makes it tough. Now, we really, at the end of the day, guys, have no choice. And then the people that are saying we got to hire a new coach, I just don't think that you're going to get what you want. I think your blame is a little bit misplaced. Do I think Ty Lue was perfect in the series? Absolutely not. Are you going to hire Michael Malone? I do agree that Ty Lue's offense is very stagnant, but he's always coached stagnant players, people that don't want to move a ton without the ball. You think we're going to bring in Michael Malone, you think we're going to run an offense out of Kawhi in the high post? Harden's not going to move. It's not logical. Ty Lue is staying. And this coaching staff, in the eyes, I talked about Lawrence Frank's press conference. In the eyes of the organization, this was a very successful season. They're going to bring everybody back and make small tweaks. And they really don't have a choice. That's the point. They don't have a choice. We have no picks besides this year's 30th and a second rounder. We are strapped because we traded everybody for Paul George and James Harden. So this is the bed we made. We got to lay in it. However, there could be worse beds to lay in. You know what I'm saying? We're still competitive. We won 50 games. We played in a very competitive series that will be remembered for a long time. And who knows what this Denver Nuggets team could accomplish and how far we truly are. Time will tell. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Let me know if that was negative enough for you. Crying guys in the comments. The age-old proverb continues. Clippers over everybody, including your favorite player's name on the back of the jersey. Clipper Nation, best fan base in the world. You already know what it is. Go Clips all summer long. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.